Device Station here in New Orleans Academy 2026. What an incredible way to end our day today. Great team assembled here. Chris Cosentino, Dr. Fuller, Val, Jeff Adams, and Dr. Ben Dasa. By the way, thank you for all your help. What an inspiration to put this whole booth crawl together. It was just such a pleasure working with you to cogitate, and here we are, right? Here we are in the Tango Belt booth with Wamas, the most unforgettable name ever. Well done. Walking us through the Tango Belts, the Airbag belt. This is personal to me and my wife because, you know, we've got some elderly parents in our lives, and the risk of falling, we know what that really means and the mortality associated with it. So we're super excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Thanks for including us. And yeah, we're doing this for selfish reasons as well, for our own parents. And really, falls, it's among the top 10 causes of death in the older adult population in America, and it's 2 of 10 that are trending in the wrong direction. And really, when you talk about fall injuries, hip fractures is the mother of all fall injuries. Hip fractures cause more mortality, morbidity, and healthcare costs than all fragility fractures combined.
Awesome. Well, walk us through it.
Yeah.
What does it do?
So TangoBelt is the first FDA-authorized wearable prescription-only intervention that can detect a serious hip-impacting fall in progress, and then it does that.
Wow.
So it deploys automotive-grade cold gas airbags over the hips to reduce the risk of sustaining a hip fracture.
So what's built into this thing that senses the fall? How does that technology work?
Yes, super sophisticated technology with sensors and software and an AI-programmed algorithm that can very accurately detect the kind of fall that might break a hip. It's not all falls that break a hip, it's this very specific fall signature. And we have, over the course of a decade, essentially developed this algorithm that is highly sensitive and highly specific to detect just that kind of fall that will break a hip. Part of the FDA approval process was actually conducting a safety and efficacy trial in the US. So it was a 400 patient trial, multi-center, in long-term care facilities, skilled nursing and assisted living, compared to the standard of care. I won't bore you with all the details and all the stats, but we were 91% effective versus the standard of care. And so for every 11 hip fractures in the control group, there was only 1 hip fracture in the treatment group, and that's reported on an intent-to-treat basis.
Wow. You know, it's interesting because our kind of the debate, I think, in orthopedics is, did the fall cause the fracture, did the fracture cause the fall?
Right.
So this may help answer that question.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, there's been a little bit of work coming out of Johns Hopkins early on, but we really feel like we have the definitive data set now to definitively answer that question, that the very small percentage of hip fractures in the older adult population are actually spontaneous, where the hip fracture occurs before the fall. The vast, vast majority are due to the ground impact. And that's why we were able to show a 91% reduction when you attenuate that force of the ground impact.
What do you think, Dr. Fuller?
Yeah.
Take a dive.
Are you really
Take a dive. You believe in it or not?
Yes. Yeah, we do. We would love to show a live deployment, but this is why we have this live deployment on reel, because we are commercial now. It's, like I said, it's a prescription-only device. And as a early stage commercial company, we really got to keep our inventory, right? We got to keep our inventory.
Does wearing clothes over it impact the deployment?
No, it does not. So I'm wearing it right now. It can be worn very discreetly, just like I'm wearing right now. You couldn't even tell probably that I was wearing it. And so long as whatever you're wearing on top is not tucked into the pants, the airbags have some place to go. So a lot of folks in the clinical trial, they did wear it underneath a shirt or a blouse or a jacket. Again, so long as it's not tucked into the pants, it's totally fine. It can be worn very, very discreetly.
And what was compliance like?
That's a good question, because it's a wearable, right? It needs to be worn for it to work. So in our clinical trial, which is the best data we have, was 67% compliance. On average, 9 hours of wear per day, total 88,000 hours of wear in the clinical trial.
So 60% wearing it, and you saw that 90% reduction.
Yeah.
So you didn't need to wear 100%.
That's a great point. Yes, absolutely. And so any kind of intervention, obviously that requires adherence, that's a critical question. But even with 67% compliance, we were able to achieve 91% compliance, and it's because when it's embedded into the clinical workflow, when it's put on during those high-risk times, and in some instances that could be overnight, so the belt's comfortable enough to be slept in, soft around the sides and the back. That's really when those falls happen, those hip fractures happen. It is water resistant, so you could be okay being caught in a rainstorm, but you can't wear it in the shower just yet. That's on the pipeline, we're working on it.
Seems like a high-risk area. That's seriously.
It is in the trial, because we conducted our trial in long-term care. A lot of those subjects in long-term care, whether it be skilled nursing or assisted living, they're actually chaperoned during the trial. So there aren't as many as you might think falls. Most of them actually happen at night when they're getting up to go to the bathroom. And the nice thing about this is not only can you sleep in it, you can also keep it on while toileting. Wow.
Did you see an increase of, there was no hip fracture, did you see an increase in other fractures because there was no hip fracture?
Yeah, great question, and the short answer is no. The long answer is in our clinical trial, we had 0 serious adverse events. So this is an incredibly safe product.
Well, the tendency to break the fall is like, a wrist fracture, an olecranon fracture,
Right. So that,
something along those lines. So
Yeah.
none of that was happened.
because you saw
Yes.
The
this,
video shows, they're going forward motion.
Right.
So do you get a distal radial fracture?
Yeah.
Do you get an olecranon fracture form?
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously this product is indicated for mitigating the risk of a hip fracture, but yeah, we know that distal radius fracture is a very common fragility fracture. We actually saw, while the product doesn't reduce the rate of hip fractures, we actually measured as secondary endpoints fall-related ED visits and fall-related hospitalizations. And we had a 56% reduction in hospitalizations and a 66% reduction in ED visits, fall-related. So really, you can, again, hip fractures being the mother of all these fragility fracture falls, you really can move the needle when you're addressing
so
those.
the target customer here is skilled nursing facilities and those kinds of
Currently, we're in
places?
long-term care, so it's skilled nursing, it's assisted living, it's memory units, but we're really exploring orthopedic use cases because we know that if you sustain a hip fracture, a low-energy fragility hip fracture, you have a greater than 6-fold risk of falling and breaking your contralateral hip. So we think that might be a compelling use case for folks that have had that initial sentinel event, that whether it be a hip fracture or a distal radius fracture, because that's the canary in the coal mine for then being at risk for then falling and breaking a hip. And it could be a valid use case within the orthopedic space. It's rechargeable. It's one charge lasts for about 5 days of use. In normal wear, there are certain individuals who just wear it 24/7, and in those cases, they have to charge it every 3 days.
So it turns on, so it knows you're wearing it, and that's
It
when
knows you're
turns
wearing.
on.
Everything's automatic. It's connected as well. So we've developed a companion app, so anyone on the care team can actually see, whether that's staff or it's family members, can see how much this thing is being worn. It also sends alerts like an automatic fall alert pendant would. Only there's a really key distinction between us and automatic fall alert pendants is we are actually mitigating the injury from occurring. So currently it's a rental. We just got FDA approval. We just launched the product last quarter. We're working on Medicare coverage, but currently it's being offered as a flexible rental model with no minimum term commitment at $690 a month.
$690 a month.
Capped at 13 months, so they own the product after 13 months.
Show us how. Let's bring the camera in for just a
Yeah.
minute. I want to see. I want to see how this thing connects.
Yeah, sure.
Right here. And
Sure, yeah, happy to. Yeah, so that's a great question, Kevin. So, designing a product for the older adult population, you can't just use any buckle like the ones that you and I would use because you have no fine dexterity in that population. So, we worked on a product that even if you were 83 with severe arthritis and a weak crab claw grip, you can still do this. It's a very simple motion that can be operated by older adults that may be living independently at home.
One size fits all?
No, so we have 5 different sizes, extra small through extra large. We can cover from 29-inch waist to 50-inch waist, so from the 5th through the 95th percentile waist circumference. So not everybody, but almost everybody.
I totally get that whole reduction in the wrist fractures because if you've dampened the velocity with the airbag, right, that by the time the rest of your body catches up.
Oh, that's a great point. And so we did a lot of our testing, and sometimes we run some of this other B-roll, which shows crash test dummy testing. We did a whole bunch of tests with crash test dummies that are instrumented all over the extremities. And actually exactly what you're seeing, if you land on a hip airbag, you're not just decelerating the hip, you're actually decelerating the extremities. And so while we can't make any claims, all I can share is in the clinical trial, again, with over 88,000 hours of wear and over 100 falls in each group, there were no head injuries associated with airbag deployment.
Wow.
My question, I guess. You said you monitor the falls.
Yes.
So how many times did it deploy in the trial?
Yeah, so it deployed about 35 times in the trial.
35 times, but a 90% reduction in fractures.
A 91% reduction compared to the control group.
Sure.
Correct, yeah. And
So how many falls were in the control group?
so on average, we had over one fall per patient per 6-month period. So the study was a 6-month period time frame, so we had over 100 falls in each group. But on average, in each group, we had each subject falling at least one time.
So why did you have over 100 falls but it only deployed 35 times? What happened to those 65?
So the belt is really specific in when it deploys. So, and this is a really key point, is it's not designed to deploy in all falls.
Okay.
It's really looking for a very specific fall signature, and that's where the body is descending at an uncontrollable rate and the greater troch is exposed to massive impact. That's really, that's the kind of fall that breaks a hip.
Got it.
And so a lot of these falls would be straight forward or straight back, and it knows the difference, and it can send a fall alert in those instances, but it knows it's intelligent enough to know not to deploy the airbag.
Fractures in the 35.
There were zero, we had zero fractures.
Okay.
So there were zero false negatives in the control.
Push him.
Wow.
Push him.
Push him. These are deactivated, so I would hit the ground really hard, and you would see me cry.
Great for social media, my friend.
Yeah.
So Wallace, I just want to say thank you,
Thank
number
you,
one, for
Kevin.
having us into your booth. This is such a personal story for my wife and I. You know, the paramedic calls in the middle of the night, tripping over the dog, going to the bathroom, and then just hoping and praying that there wasn't a hip fracture, because we know what comes next. We know too much in this industry, right? So y'all are doing God's work, and I just want to thank you for that, and I wish you guys great success. And let's see if we can help you succeed a little bit right here. For those watching, because I know y'all were looking for distribution that can take many different forms. We love 1099s. That's our people's. So for people that are consuming this content, they're going, you know, that would be cool to have in my bag, right? Because that's different.
Yeah.
And the numbers speak for themselves. How do they connect with you guys?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. So yeah, we're very interested in 1099 reps who have existing relationships with trauma. If you have relationships in VA, that's a plus. The VA is, we are in several VA sites right now. And they can reach us through info@TangoBelt.com.
Info@TangoBelt.com. Let's make that happen. Let's overwhelm them, because I think this is a great idea. I really love what y'all were doing. Again, thank you so much for allowing us behind the booth to talk about it, and I wish you guys great success.
Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Really great. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Really. Great questions.
Freaking cool, right?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.